There are corners of this planet where the idea of home no longer makes sense. Picture a single house balanced on a rock in the middle of a furious river. Imagine a stone dwelling that looks less built than grown, fused into the spine of a mountain. Think of a tiny cabin perched on a lonely island far out at sea, looking so frail that one strong gust seems enough to wipe it off the map. When you look at places like these, the same question keeps surfacing. Why would anyone ever choose to live here, on a vertical column of stone, on a wind-battered island, on a ledge hanging above a bottomless valley? In some of these places, people have gone underground entirely, burrowing into rock to escape killing heat, choking sand, and a loneliness so complete it feels physical. Elsewhere, whole communities have learned to live inside the throat of a volcano, beside a fading desert spring, or behind walls of cliff that seal them away like a secret the world forgot to keep. Some monasteries float above the clouds, towns hidden behind walls of stone, and homes carved straight into the face of a precipice, each one feeling less like a building and more like a quiet act of defiance against nature itself. And once you add lighthouses standing alone in violent seas, a frozen vault built to outlast civilization, and temples that seem to drift somewhere between the earth and the sky, this journey stops being about houses at all. It becomes something closer to a search for the last outposts of humanity, the places where people pushed to the very edge of what is survivable, then decided to stay. What unites these places isn't beauty, though many of them are unforgettably beautiful. It's a kind of stubbornness. Every one of them represents a moment where someone looked at a stretch of rock or water or ice that the rest of the world had quietly written off and decided it could be lived in anyway. Sometimes the reason was faith, a longing for silence so deep that ordinary life felt like noise. Sometimes it was fear, a need to put a wall of cliff or sea between themselves and whatever was coming. Sometimes it was simply survival, the cold arithmetic of where water could be found and where shelter could be carved. But the result, every single time, is a human mark left in a place that seems designed to refuse one. So let's go there together, to the impossible places, and stand for a moment where almost everything tells us no one should be standing at all. Some of these are still inhabited today. Some have been abandoned and reclaimed by the wind. And a few feel less like destinations than like warnings, fragile points of life balanced against forces far larger than us. Either way, they have something to say about who we are and about how far the human instinct to belong somewhere will push us before it finally gives way. Meteora, Greece. We begin where the land seems to forget gravity altogether. Rising from a green plain in central Greece, the giant sandstone towers of Meteora reach heights of around 400 meters, like enormous stone fingers reaching straight into the open sky. And resting on top of those towers impossibly, sit a handful of monasteries, small fortresses of faith balanced on the very edge of nothing. Beginning in the 14th century, monks deliberately chose this near unreachable place. The logic was as harsh as it was clear. The harder it was to reach the summit, the safer their spiritual life would be from the wars and chaos far below. For centuries, there were no carved steps at all. To reach the monasteries, a person had to climb swaying rope ladders or fold themselves into a net while a hand-cranked pulley hauled them up through open air, the ground falling away beneath their feet. Building these places must have felt close to impossible. Every wooden beam, every brick, every barrel of water had to be dragged up the cliff face by hand and rope, and some sources note that gathering enough material for a single monastery could take around 20 years. The monks lived with a constant, intimate awareness of the drop beneath them, hauling everything they owned and everything they ate up through the same open air that protected them. Even the dead were sometimes carried up in baskets. It was a life arranged entirely around the principle that difficulty itself was a form of safety, that the void below was not a threat but a moat. At its height, the Meteora complex held roughly 24 working monasteries. Today, only 6 remain. They stand among drifting cloud and steady wind, quiet proof of how far human faith, isolation, and pure endurance can be pushed before they finally meet their limit. To stand at the base and look up at them now, with carved stairways and visitors where rope ladders once swung, is to feel the strange distance between the world those monks were fleeing and the one that eventually came to find them anyway. Aogashima, Japan. Now travel to the restless surface of the Pacific, where an island appears like a dark green bowl floating on the sea, with an entire village living inside the body of a volcano that has never truly gone to sleep. This is Aogashima, and its shape alone is enough to make you uneasy. It has a rare double caldera, a second, smaller volcanic cone rising from the floor of the older crater, like an old wound the Earth never managed to close. Around the rim, basalt cliffs estimated at roughly 200 to 400 meters high fall away almost vertically into the water, erasing any hope of a gentle, welcoming shore. The island sits hundreds of kilometers from the Japanese mainland, and that distance is enforced daily by storms, strong currents, and heavy swell, so that even arriving here becomes a kind of negotiation with the sea. There is no easy harbor where boats can simply pull in, and for long stretches of the year, the only reliable way on or off the island is a small helicopter that runs when the weather allows it. With a population of only around 160 to 170 people, Aogashima can feel like a community held inside a double cage of nature, violent water surrounding it on the outside, and the slow, patient heat of a living volcano resting underneath. And yet the people who stay here have learned to use the very thing that should frighten them most. Volcanic ground keeps the soil rich, and the heat trapped beneath the island is tapped for natural steam, used for cooking and warmth, turning the island's greatest danger into part of its daily comfort. To call this place home is to make a quiet, ongoing peace with both the fire below and the sea around it, a bargain renewed every single morning. Skellig Michael, Ireland. From the savage waters of the North Atlantic, Skellig Michael lifts out of the ocean like a cold pyramid of stone, a place where solitude isn't merely the setting, but the very first requirement for staying alive. This jagged spire of sandstone stands roughly 218 meters tall, taking the full force of winds that can climb past 160 kilometers an hour, while salt-heavy air works its way into every crack and quietly eats at both the rock and anything people have dared to build on it. The route to the summit was never designed for comfort. More than 600 stone steps, with no railing of any kind, force each footfall to land right beside open cliffs and the roaring sea far below. The monks who built this path centuries ago set each stone by hand, creating a stairway that still climbs through swirling seabirds and salt spray today. And yet, in that brutal place, the beehive-shaped stone huts built by those early monks have held their ground for more than 1,000 years. Dry stacked without mortar, shaped to shed the rain and shrug off the wind, they remain there still, evidence that when a sense of purpose runs deep enough, people can take the harshest edge of the world and turn it into somewhere to endure. For the monks who lived here, the isolation was the entire point. Cut off from the mainland for long stretches when the sea turned hostile, they survived on what little the island and the ocean could offer, devoting their days to prayer in one of the loneliest inhabited spots in all of medieval Europe. Skellig Michael is not just an island of rock. It is proof that the longing to leave the ordinary world behind sometimes demands that people live exactly where almost every condition for life has been denied. Perched, Australia. Deep in the scorched red interior of South Australia lies a town that looks like a strange experiment in survival, a place where people decided not to fight the blazing sun at all, but to vanish beneath it. This is Perched, and much of its life happens underground. The reason is simple and severe. On the surface in summer, temperatures can push toward 50 degrees Celsius, with dust storms sweeping across the plain, while winter nights can drop below freezing. To escape that swing between fire and ice, residents carved their homes and shared spaces directly into the soft sandstone, building an entire underground world that stays at a steady, comfortable range of roughly 23 to 25 degrees Celsius all year round. These aren't cramped burrows, either. The underground dwellings, often called dugouts, can be spacious and surprisingly ordinary inside, with bedrooms, living rooms, and even churches and hotels carved out of the rock, lit by electric light and ventilated through shafts to the surface. Step inside and the brutal desert simply disappears, replaced by cool, silent stone that never changes its temperature no matter what the sky is doing. The town's story began with an opal rush, since this dry, unpromising ground supplies a large share of the world's high-quality opal, with some gemstones reportedly forming inside the fossilized bones of ancient creatures. The first diggers quickly realized that the same earth they were tunneling through for treasure could also shelter them from the punishing climate, and so the mines and the homes grew together. But that buried wealth came with a price. The surface around the town is dotted with an estimated 250,000 abandoned, unfenced mine shafts, which means that a single careless step out in the desert can turn into a fall straight down into the dark. It is a landscape where the very ground that gives is also the ground that takes. Uros, floating islands, Peru. High in the Andes, more than 3,800 meters above the sea, sits one of the most extraordinary answers anyone has ever given to the problem of survival. Centuries ago, to escape the pressure of more powerful neighboring peoples, the Uros people made a remarkable choice. They left solid land entirely and built a floating nation out of reeds on the surface of Lake Titicaca. These islands are woven from countless hollow totora reeds, each one filled with tiny pockets of air, then anchored to the lake bed with ropes so the wind and water cannot drag them away. But the construction is endlessly dying from below, because the reeds touching the water are constantly rotting, which forces the people to lay fresh reeds across the surface every couple of weeks just to keep their home from sinking. Even a well-kept island may only last around 30 years before it has to be rebuilt. Walking across one is a strange sensation. The spongy surface sinks a few centimeters under each step, like treading on a giant water cushion, and sometimes cold lake water seeps up to soak your shoes. Everything here is made from the same plant. The reeds form the ground, the houses, the boats, even much of the food, since the soft white base of the totara can be eaten. An entire way of living balanced on a single species of reed and the patience to keep replacing it. Strangest of all, when families fall into serious conflict, the solution can be wonderfully literal. They cut the island in two, release the anchors, and let their own piece of home drift off to a new spot, somewhere across the wide blue lake. It is hard to imagine a more honest image of a community deciding to go its separate ways. Taksang, Bhutan. Clinging to a sheer cliff at roughly 3,100 meters of altitude, a white monastery in Bhutan appears to argue openly with gravity. Known as the Tiger's Nest, Taksang hangs around 900 meters above the floor of the valley, both a daring feat of building and a place wrapped in legend, said to mark the spot where a great spiritual master arrived on the back of a flying tigress to subdue dark forces. no easy way in. To reach it, you can only hike several kilometers upward through a forest of moss-covered pine, past long lines of Tibetan prayer flags snapping in the mountain wind. As you draw near, the path tightens your nerves further, crossing a narrow stone bridge over a shadowed gorge with a waterfall thundering beside it. And then comes the reward. When mist rolls across the cliff and the gilded roofs surface through a sea of cloud, the exhaustion seems to fall away because for a few breathless moments, the entire monastery looks as though it is lifted off the rock and is simply floating in the sky. Bishop Rock Lighthouse, United Kingdom. Out in the open Atlantic, on a bare scrap of granite, stands a lighthouse that looks as though it has claimed the world's smallest island purely so it can face the waves alone. To survive being torn apart by the sea, the roughly 4.9-meter tower was assembled from thousands of tons of granite, with the blocks locked together by interlocking dovetail joints, so the whole structure behaves like a single, unbreakable mass of stone. When the great storms arrive, the violence is hard to imagine. Waves reported to reach around 30 meters can wash clean over the top of the tower, turning the lighthouse into a shuddering white column lost in spray. The early attempts to build here failed spectacularly, with one version of the structure swept away before it was ever finished, and only the immense weight and the locked-together design of the final tower allowed it to stand its ground. For generations, keepers lived inside the cramped, stacked floors of this tower, completely alone, climbing from level to level inside a space barely wider than a stairwell, with the entire Atlantic hammering at the walls. Supplies came by boat when the sea allowed, and when it didn't, the keepers simply waited. That life ended in 1991, when the light was finally automated and handed over to remote control, and the last human presence withdrew from the rock. With a beam that can carry for many kilometers, Bishop Rock has long served two purposes at once: a warning of the danger lurking offshore, and, for sailors trying to find their way back, a final point of hope on the horizon. It marks, in a very real sense, the edge of one world and the beginning of the open ocean beyond. Casa do Penedo, Portugal. In the green highlands of northern Portugal stands a house that looks like a relic of the Stone Age that somehow sprouted windows and a door. Casa do Penedo turns its back on every clean line of modern architecture. Rather than resting on an ordinary concrete base, the house is wedged tightly between four enormous granite boulders sunk into the earth, which makes it less a building than a small, primitive fortress of rock. Although it was finished in the 1970s, the place still proudly refuses to connect to the power grid, getting by on candlelight and the slow warmth held inside its heavy stone body. It sits on an exposed, windy stretch of grassland, and one of its more striking details is a small pool carved directly into the natural stone to gather the cold rain. Beneath its modest red-tiled roof, Casa do Penedo feels like a quiet tribute to a very old human dream, the wish to step out of the modern world completely and simply disappear into the landscape. Gacha da Lur, Faroe Islands. Perched on a shelf of land that falls away into the ocean over a basalt cliff some 30 meters high, the village of Gaça da Lur looks like a small green stronghold, suspended between dark peaks and a churning sea. With no forest anywhere to shield it, gusts that can approach 160 kilometers an hour tear endlessly at every living thing, which is why residents traditionally weighed their roofs down with thick layers of grass and soil to keep them from being stripped away. This is a place that knows rain intimately, with rainy days numbering in the hundreds each year, and those smooth green fields, beautiful from a distance, behave like cold, saturated sponges ready to turn the ground into deep mud. When storms sweep in, water and mud surge together until the village waterfall swells into something like an open wound, pouring straight into the sea, while the cliffs roar beneath the dark water. For a long time, the only way out was on foot over the mountain, and it wasn't until a tunnel opened in 2004 that Gaza da Lur was saved from near total isolation, though that same tunnel also let the modern world in, slowly thinning the ancient quiet that had held for centuries. Catski Pillar, Georgia. Like a gray stone finger pointing straight up at the heavens, the Catski Pillar carries a tiny structure on its summit and turns the old dream of escaping the world into something both sacred and slightly terrifying. This limestone column, roughly 40 meters tall, is what remained after millions of years of wind and water wore everything softer away, leaving behind a lonely tower of rock with almost nothing supporting it. The flat top measures only a little over 100 square meters, a space so small that a single unthinking step backward could turn quiet meditation into a fall straight into empty air. And because the column is made of limestone, the kind of rock that acidic rain can slowly dissolve, its very existence feels like a clock running down, shortened grain by grain across the centuries. The Catski Pillar serves as a strange reminder that, in their search for something like heaven, some people have chosen to cut themselves away not only from the ground beneath them, but from family, comfort, and the whole shape of an ordinary life. Eagle's Nest, Namibia. In the parched desert of Namibia, a retreat called Eagle's Nest doesn't try to overpower the land at all. Instead, it hides itself among colossal granite boulders, like a shelter that has finally learned how to live through stone rather than against it. This is a country that receives only a sliver of rain in a year, so every form of life here is forced to slow down and hold its breath through dry spells that can stretch on and on. And the hardship isn't only the heat, though daytime temperatures can climb well above 40 degrees Celsius, because the nights can plunge near freezing, splitting a single day into a trial that swings between fire and ice. The granite boulders that shelter the place were once magma, cooling slowly deep underground hundreds of millions of years ago, before wind and sand scoured them bare, like ancient bones the desert chose to uncover. That history is exactly why the design works. After soaking up sunlight all day, the stone walls release that stored warmth back into the cold night. A quiet lesson that in a place this severe, people don't conquer the desert. They survive only by moving with it. Civita di Bagnoregio, Italy. Stranded on a crumbling peak of soft volcanic rock in central Italy, this place looks like a ghost town more than 2,000 years old, and it carries an unsettling nickname. The Dying City. Its long decline began with an earthquake that destroyed the natural pathways once connecting the rock to the surrounding land, leaving the town stranded like an island in a harsh, eroding valley of clay. Ever since, a single, narrow, steep footbridge has been the only way in, like a last thin thread keeping the town tethered to the modern world. But even that survival remains fragile, because rain, wind, and time keep gnawing at the foundation, and the edge of the town is said to retreat by several centimeters every year. When winter fog settles into the valley and hides everything around it, Civita seems to float above the clouds like a castle in the air. Home now to only around 15 permanent residents who share the deep silence with little more than the wind and a few wandering cats. Fanjingshan, Hina now rise above the clouds entirely. At roughly 2,570 meters, the ancient mountain of Fanjingshan in China stands as a solitary witness to almost unimaginable stretches of geological time. To reach the top, you need real determination, climbing thousands of steep steps that hug the cliffside as the mountain narrows to a point. Up near the summit, directly above a deep, yawning chasm, a slim stone bridge links two separate peaks, creating a wonder that feels both beautiful and dangerously fragile. This high, strange world is also a refuge for rare golden snub-nosed monkeys, almost like survivors from an older age lingering on within the great forest, their bright fur flashing through the mist among trees that have grown undisturbed for ages. The scenery turns even more surreal at the famous mushroom-shaped rock, a towering formation balanced on an impossibly thin base, shaped by millions of years of wind and storm into something that looks like it should have toppled long ago, and yet refuses to fall. Lifted above the noise and worry of the world below, this sacred summit is where many people come to find a sense of complete inner stillness, surrounded on every side by a slow, drifting ocean of cloud that swallows the lower world entirely and leaves only the peaks, the temples, and the sky. House on the Drina, Serbia. In the middle of a fast roaring river in Serbia, a small wooden house clings to a single rock, looking for all the world like a tiny box daring to challenge the entire current around it. Its foundation isn't solid, level ground at all, but an ancient outcrop of limestone and dolomite, sharpened over thousands of years by the moving water, right in the heart of the flow. When the snow melts upstream or floods rush down, the river can surge dramatically, with the water level climbing several meters in just a few hours, and the current growing fierce enough to threaten anything in its path. Seen from the bank, the little gray-brown house seems to hover within a cold mist, ringed by sharp emerald green water that never stops roaring. The whole thing began in the late 1960s, reportedly from a few wooden planks that local teenagers laid down on the rock as a place to sunbathe, and it has been rebuilt many times since. More than anything, the house on the Drina is a standing reminder that nature always keeps the final power to erase any spot that people try to claim as their own. Svalbard Global Seed Vault, Norway. Jutting out from a frozen mountainside in the Arctic like a structure beamed in from the future, this is the place sometimes called the Doomsday Vault, built to guard one of humanity's last reserves against catastrophe. Driven deep into solid rock on the island of Spitsbergen, the vault relies on the surrounding permafrost to hold a deeply cold temperature, so that even if every mechanical system failed, the chill of the mountain itself would keep working. With room for billions of seeds, it functions like the ultimate backup, a place that could one day help restart the world's agriculture if other gene banks were lost to war, disaster, or collapse. The idea is almost humbling in its patience. The vault doesn't expect catastrophe tomorrow. It simply assumes that, across a long enough span of human history, something somewhere will eventually fail, and that when it does, the seeds resting here in the cold will still be viable, ready to be carried back out into a damaged world and planted again. In this icy outpost, seeds from a great many countries rest quietly side by side, even seeds sent from nations that are otherwise in open conflict. A silent kind of agreement to protect the future of life without a single weapon or wall involved. There is something quietly moving about that, the thought of bitter enemies trusting the same frozen mountain to hold their inheritance. Surrounded by ice, polar bears, and a stillness that's hard to describe, the seed vault feels less like a building and more like a message that one generation is carefully sending forward, intended to be opened thousands of years from now by people we will never meet. Huacachina, Peru. Out in the Peruvian desert lies something that looks too perfect to be real, and yet it is no mirage conjured up to fool a thirsty traveler. Huacachina is a genuine pocket of life, a small lake trapped at the foot of enormous dunes that can rise to remarkable heights all around it. That bowl of sand turns the oasis into a kind of giant heat trap, where daytime temperatures can climb well above 40 degrees Celsius before falling toward freezing at night, since rain has all but abandoned this part of the world. The lake itself survives only because underground water slowly rises up through deep fractures in the earth. But the emerald shimmer that looks so inviting from a distance hides a harder truth, because algae, chemicals, and human waste have steadily polluted the water year after year. So, Huacachina is encircled by more than just sand. It is also pressed in on all sides by the weight of tourism, which has gradually turned the fantasy of a desert oasis into a quiet warning about just how fragile life can be in a place this extreme. Saint-Michel-d'Aiguille, France. Rising out of a calm plain in France, as an enormous needle turned upside down, this hardened core of an old volcano stands nearly 85 meters tall and carries on its summit a sacred architectural masterpiece, more than 1,000 years old. Since the late 10th century, skilled builders fitted each stone tightly against the rock so that the chapel looks as though it sprouted directly from the peak, in a spot regularly battered by fierce storms and lightning. Inside that cramped space, the vaulted ceilings were cleverly engineered to push their weight outward toward the cliff edges, allowing the center to seem almost suspended in place without crushing the rock core beneath. To reach the colorful archway at the top, visitors have to climb hundreds of steep stone steps that wind their way around the pillar, an ascent that can feel like walking up the scales of some enormous coiled snake. Place held a secret for centuries, a small treasure chamber, sleeping behind a wall through long ages, until it was finally discovered in the middle of the 20th century. Elithai Island, Iceland. In the wild waters off the south coast of Iceland, a single white house on the island of Elithai appears like the loneliest dot imaginable, set between two vast fields of green and blue. The island itself is a solidified block of magma, born from an underwater volcanic eruption thousands of years ago. Elithai covers only a small area, with black lava cliffs dropping straight down to the sea and the land rising to a modest high point above the water. isolation here is far less romantic than social media tends to suggest, because there are no rivers, no streams, and no underground springs anywhere on the island. That means every drop of fresh water has to wait for the rain to deliver it. The little house was built in the 1950s as a shelter connected to hunting on the island, and despite all the myths that have grown around it online, it stands today as a plain reminder that the dream of escaping the world can turn very quickly into a raw, unsentimental confrontation with nature. Phugtal Monastery, India. In the high Himalayas of northern India, a monastery clings to a cliff like an enormous stone beehive, a place where human faith and the bare mountains seem to fuse into a single shape. At roughly 3,800 meters above sea level, Phugtal Monastery survives in thin air and near total isolation, far from anything resembling a modern road. Below it, a river winds turquoise through a deep canyon, bringing a thread of life to the dry, rocky world all around. Reaching the monastery means walking along narrow, sometimes dangerous cliff paths, because no proper road has ever connected it to the outside. Deep within the central cave at its heart, there is a sacred spring that is said to have never once run dry, quietly sustaining generations of monks through the centuries in one of the most remote corners on Earth. Monemvasia, Greece. Seen from the water, Monemvasia looks like a silent mass of stone hiding an entire ancient town, as if time itself reached out and sealed it away from the rest of the world. This great rock was once joined to the Greek mainland, but an earthquake long ago tore it loose, leaving behind a stone island that rises hundreds of meters above the sea. For more than 1,500 years, the salty mist drifting off the water has slowly eaten into the mortar, the stone walls, and every human mark clinging to the slope. The name Monemvasia itself means single entrance, because the place can only be reached through one narrow approach, turning that bottleneck into a powerful advantage against any would-be invader. Monemvasia, then, is more than just a strikingly beautiful town. It stands as proof that sometimes isolation itself becomes the strongest wall there is, the thing that quietly preserves an entire civilization long after the rest of the world has moved on. Wooden churches of Arkhangelsk, Russia. In the frozen taiga of the Russian north, near the 64th parallel, a scattering of wooden churches rises out of the snow like castles from a fairy tale, structures that have stood for 300 to 400 years without a single iron nail holding them together. Ancient craftsmen fitted century-old pine logs together with flexible wooden joints, which let the buildings breathe and shift gently with the seasons and survive cold that can sink to minus 40 degrees. Those sharp tent-shaped roofs reaching toward the sky aren't only spiritual symbols. They also let heavy snow slide off quickly, so its weight can never build up enough to crush the building below. Most remarkable of all, the thousands of aspen shingles covering them slowly weather into a soft metallic silver, so that under sunlight or moonlight the churches seem to shimmer as if dressed in silver scales. Standing alone between the dark pine forest and the white snow for long months at a time, these gray wooden structures feel almost like lighthouses on land, quietly holding the deep, enduring spirit of the Russian North. Hermitage of San Colombano, Italy. Like a silent guardian half swallowed by the great jaws of gray rock, this hermitage in Italy hangs nearly 120 meters above a rushing river below. The structure was built right into a cave, tied to an old legend of a saint who defeated a sacred dragon, and it uses the natural vault of the mountain itself as both ceiling and walls. To reach this fortress of silence, visitors must climb 100 or so steep stone steps carved directly into the bare cliff, winding their way close beside the deep drop. Thanks to the overhanging rock that shields it like a vast umbrella, the inside stays cool, and the delicate frescoes painted there have been protected from the weather for hundreds of years. Once a refuge for hermits who deliberately cut themselves off from the world, the Hermitage of San Colombano still clings to its cliff today, a lasting symbol of the kind of faith that chooses solitude and somehow endures. Mürren, Switzerland. Now the journey softens, and we descend into Europe's quiet hidden valleys. Leave the noise of the world behind, and you find a village held tightly between giant limestone walls that rise thousands of feet until the whole valley feels like a closed bowl of stone. The small cable cars threading up the mountainside here don't mainly exist to carry tourists. They carry milk, hay, and the daily supplies that the cliff edge farms depend on. A quiet reminder that life in this place still revolves around real, everyday work rather than scenery. Winter makes everything harsher, with snow that can pile deeper than the height of a person, and the steady threat of avalanches hanging over the narrow slopes. In that setting, old wooden houses, darkened by years of sun and snow, stand out sharply against the bright green grass, creating a beauty that feels both unusual and strangely deep. But the place is never lifeless. The sound of water falling from the high cliffs mixes with the clank of cowbells until the two together become the true rhythm of an old farming land. Maybe that is why so many people see a village like this as a picture of an original, untouched Switzerland, a place that still holds the self-reliant, hard-edged spirit of the early mountain people, who first decided that even a shelf of rock between sky and valley could be made into a home. Saint-Ursanne, Switzerland, rests peacefully in the Jura region of Switzerland, with its medieval beauty remarkably well preserved. The town lies deep at the bottom of a valley, sheltered by steep forested slopes that make it feel pleasantly cut off from the modern world. At its heart stands an old monastery and its carved stone cloister, where Romanesque solidity and Gothic grace meet in the same sacred space. Local legend tells of a hermit who founded the place and is said to have once tamed a great bear, lending the town an extra layer of mystery and old spiritual power. The clear river flowing past reflects the famous arched stone bridge so perfectly that the whole scene seems to hover somewhere between water and memory. More than just a pretty destination, Saint-Ursanne feels like a small monument to preservation, a place where time has deliberately slowed down to protect the values of an older world. Stechelberg, Switzerland. Nestled where the road finally surrenders to the mountains, this Swiss hamlet sits in a valley held tightly between giant limestone walls that rise thousands of feet, making the whole place feel like a closed bowl of stone. The name of the great waterfall nearby translates as something like dust, because from a distance the falls already look less like water and more like a white storm flying down between the dark cliffs. The strangest detail is what waits at the bottom. There is no deep, menacing pool below, but a bright green meadow where cows graze calmly, as though no danger were standing right beside them. From nearly 200 meters up, the mass of falling water hits so hard that the wind shreds it into thick mist, and at times you genuinely cannot tell where it touches the ground. Though the valley itself is otherwise hushed, the roar of the falls keeps rumbling like distant thunder, shaking the air and making everyone beneath it feel suddenly very small. To survive the wild wind off the waterfall in the brutal winters, the roofs of the small huts here are pinned down with stone blocks weighing hundreds of pounds, which is why people only use them for a brief stretch of summer. As evening arrives, the narrow stone lanes and gray walls make the whole place feel even quieter, as if time itself had simply forgotten this corner among the high mountains. Today, only a small number of people still live in these clustered stone houses, built from heavy blocks to hold off the snow, and the slow rhythm of the place makes it feel like a fragment of the Middle Ages left behind at the end of the world. In sharp contrast, a clear turquoise river runs over pale stones and suddenly lights up the cold gray scene, a small flash of color in a landscape ruled by rock. Grindelwald, Switzerland. And so we end where the impossible begins to feel almost like home. Tucked beneath the shadow of immense rock walls, the village of Grindelwald carries a gentle kind of beauty, with bright green meadows and delicate wooden chalets scattered across the slopes. contrast that gives the place its unforgettable character. The softness of those fields below set against the heavy, towering cliffs above. To keep a single avalanche from wiping out the whole community at once, the houses were deliberately built far apart across the steep hillside. It looks utterly peaceful today, and yet few visitors know that this village was once destroyed by fire in the late 19th century and had to be rebuilt. For those who want to take in the full sweep of the landscape, there are paths fixed directly into the cliff face, the kind of walk that sends your heart racing as the valley drops away beneath the steel mesh under your feet. And then night falls. Warm yellow light spills from the small windows scattered across the mountainside until the whole slope seems to glow softly in the dark, like a gathering of fireflies holding their ground against the cold. That, in the end, is the quiet thread running through all of these impossible places. From a monastery floating above a sea of cloud to a single white house alone on an island, from a town carved into the dark beneath the desert to a chapel balanced on a needle of ancient volcanic rock, each one began as a kind of question. Why would anyone choose to live here, where almost everything says they shouldn't, and every one of them answers in the same stubborn, very human way? Because sometimes the desire to find silence, or safety, or meaning, or simply a place that belongs entirely to you is stronger than the fear of the edge. These are the last outposts, the homes built, where the map seems to run out. And the longer you look at them, the less they feel like the end of the world, and the more they feel like proof of how far we are willing to go to call somewhere home.